And as I promised before, we have Reece Humprey from the Ohio Regional Training Center. But before we bring him on, here's a little bit about Reece. Two-time U.S. Open champion, a two-time University World medalist, taking second and third. Also, a very, very impressive seven-time national champion freestyle Greco, three-time Indiana State Championship, and a two-time All-American for the Ohio State University. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Reece Humprey.
Yeah, hey guys, how you doing?
Doing really good, Reece. As you know, the IOC has dropped wrestling, and I wanted to bring you on to talk a little bit about that and your feelings behind that.
I remember the place I was and what I was doing at the moment that I hear wrestling was dropped. It was almost like it was a practical joke or something like that, but something we knew we had to take serious. Also, at the same time, just knowing the wrestler mentality and the fight that wrestlers have, I still haven't for 1 second thought that the program would be dropped, that wrestling would be out of the Olympics in 2020 and 2024. So I've taken it with a real optimistic outlook. And personally, I don't think it'll be dropped, and I have a lot of information from a lot of the top guys of FILA, at least on the American side. And from what I'm hearing, I hear good things.
Like, what were you doing when you got that news? Because I was actually still sleeping, and I woke up to a couple of texts from some people. I'm like, you guys are from my team, and great guys. But then I got a call, like, you need to go look into this. What were you doing when you heard about this?
Yeah, I was playing with my kids, and I saw it on Twitter, and the same kind of thing. Just thought that someone was joking, but then you see 10 to 20 of them, and then you see it on everybody's feed, and then you see it on ESPN, and you realize that it is an actual real thing, and it is a big deal. Because, it's such a dumbfounding statement that wrestling, the first sport, the sport that was before the Olympics, could be out. The Olympics are about speed, combat, and strength, and wrestling is one of the main sports that is combat, and so it goes against the spirit of the Olympics, and to take it out, so it didn't really make sense.
Part of your career, what has you've had a very, very decorated career through high school and college. What has wrestling done for you to help shape you into the person that you are?
Well, for me, wrestling has taught me everything. It's how I live my life. The morals and the work ethic and the determination that wrestling teaches you, whether you reach a middle school level or you're training for the Olympics or you're an Olympic champion. The same morals and characteristics apply. So pretty much how I am a man, how I'm a father, how I'm a husband. It's mostly because of wrestling. My best friends are wrestlers. I think everything it teaches you is great, and it's crazy that you can take away the dreams of some of these kids that are basically innocent, that work so hard. They've done the exact same things that I've done my whole life, and they just basically don't get a shot at it. So it would be a complete shame and a pretty horrible thing if it did get kicked out.
With all the listeners around the world listening in, if you could tell people to do something, what would you tell them to do to help get this more out there? What can they do as an individual? Because people say, well, I'm just one person. What can I do? What will I matter? But in my opinion, people do matter.
Yeah, people definitely matter. This is our sport, and we need to take a hold of it, whether it just be a post on Facebook or spreading news of different voting polls and things by word of mouth. Every little bit could possibly be the difference. And I know there's a huge poll right now where we're just a little bit ahead of squash, which is the other our main competition for that last spot back into the Olympics. So get out there and vote and spread the news on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and basically just do whatever you can and to keep our sport alive because it's made us what we are.
I was talking to Jake Herbert and a couple other guys. The U.S. has 2 million wrestlers alone. Now, and this is not our national sport. We have baseball, football, and everything else. but countries like Russia, Azerbaijan, and other countries like that, wrestling is their national sport. What do you envision what's going on when they heard that wrestling was dropped?
What do you mean? Like just the Russians or just our youth?
Like the newest one, like the people from Russia heard that wrestling was dropped from the Olympic Games because wrestling is their national sport.
Yeah, it would be like if football was dropped. There was no NFL, or if there was no NBA for us. It is their national sport. It's the highest of the high. They have billboards of guys like Kadyrov and world champions and past Olympic champions, and just like we have the LeBron James and Michael Jordan posters and things like that. So it is their national sport, and I mean, there's millions of wrestlers that wrestle in America. It's tenfold over there.
With also FILA changing the rules, do you think that's going to help to promote more action and something more appealing to the general public?
Yes, definitely. Yes and no. Wrestling isn't really a spectator sport. It never has been. Even as simple as you can make the rules, it's still wrestling, and it's still real complicated. There's a lot of action going on. But it will be much more simplified and much easier to understand. But at the same time, there's still so many rules of whether his elbow was down and if it's a takedown or not that we know, just as being experts in the sport. But it should be much easier to be a spectator and less complicated, I think.
We have an email coming in from Thomas. He wants to know, what are your future plans that you're a U.S. Open champ and you get to sit out the world team mini tournament, I believe. Will that affect you in any way?
Yeah, so by winning the U.S. Open, I think it was a month ago or 2 months ago, I get to sit out of the trials. So that whole tournament happened. All guys at 60 kilos will wrestle, and then the winner of that will wrestle me 2 out of 3. So some people look at it as an advantage. Some people look at it as a disadvantage. I think it's a huge advantage. If you need to get the matches in and you think that's why it's a disadvantage, get the matches in. But the only thing that's guaranteed is you can't lose. You're in the finals. So, yeah, I think it's a huge advantage. There's 3 or 4 guys that are just world-class at 60 kilos, and Logan Stever, who just coming off a win he beat the guy that's ranked number 1 in the world, and Coleman Scott, who's an Olympic bronze medalist, and guys like Jimmy Kennedy and Tyler Graff, who've challenged all of us. So it's good to be out of the tournament, and I'll just have to wrestle one of those guys, and I'll be prepared when they've had to battle through a whole tournament.
Talking about Logan Stever in that event, Beat the Streets, Rumble at the Rails, tell us a little bit about how that was. That put the spotlight having the top 3 countries in the world wrestle in New York.
Oh, it was a huge deal. Iran obviously took it very seriously. They brought their best team, and they have a very, very good team right now. As you could see, they kind of beat us up. But yeah, we were ready for it. We did a whole week camp and worked on some stuff, and we thought we were going to turn some things around because they kind of did the same thing to us at the World Cup. But yeah, they came ready and they had a real good game plan, and they took it to us a little bit. And then we did the same thing to Russia. So it's kind of like a round robin. Russia has beaten Iran before. We've beaten Russia, and then Iran beat us. So it was a serious battle at a real high level, and it was a real fun thing to be a part of. I know we were live on NBC Sports, and I had a lot of feedback on Twitter and Facebook of people following me, and it was great to have that support of the Americans behind us.
That's right. You can follow Reece at Reece Hump 60kg on Twitter. He also has a Vine. You can follow him as well. Even though the match didn't go your way, what do you think what's your personal experience about the Rumble at the Rails, on the Rails?
I mean, personally, it was a great thing to be a part of. The Iranian fans are unbelievable. They're screaming for, even when their guy loses, like the one match we won, Kyle Dake, I saw them cheering him on, and they just respect wrestling, which is a real cool thing to be a part of. And and see up close. I mean, those seats were $1,000 a ticket, which is
What?
absurd for a wrestling event. And we had 1,000 people, and the place was packed full, sold out. So, yeah, I mean, it was a huge event to save Olympic wrestling and for Beat the Streets, to get those kids off the streets and help that program with Novogratz and the guys behind it. But yeah, it's an awesome experience. I wrestled in Times Square last year at the Olympic trials, and that didn't go my way either. But it takes nothing away from the experience that it was wrestling outside and now wrestling in Grand Central Station. It's definitely a real cool event, and it was awesome to be on live TV. Like I said, have the support of the Americans behind us. Share the mat with the team, with Jordan Burroughs and guys that have won Olympic medals and world titles. It's the exact place I want to be.
That can't be a greater feeling than being in something like that. All right, Reece, we have time for one more question. If this comes from a coach from Wyoming, if you could tell one thing to the youth about, hearing that the Olympics have been wrestling has been cut out from the Olympics, what would you tell all these young kids who aspire to be an Olympic champion or wrestle in the Olympics? What would you tell them?
Well, for right now, the sport isn't dropped. It was taken out, and it has a chance to come back in. So right now, the wrestling is open at the Olympics for 2016. So I would say keep doing what you're doing. Follow the dream and follow your heart, and keep doing what you're doing, because if you do have the skills and you have the people around you that being an Olympic champion is a reality, you can't afford days off. So even if you're 10, if you're 2, if you're whatever, as soon as you have that goal in mind, it has to be a one-track thing. So keep doing what you're doing, and let's just have faith that the sport will prevail, and as wrestlers most of the time do.
All right, Reece, if we need you, are you willing to take the call to make another guest appearance?
Yes, of course.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Reece Humprey, a wrestler for the United States of the Ohio Regional Training Center at 60 kilograms. Reece, I can't thank you enough for your time.
All right, thank you guys very much.
All right, take care, Reece.